Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome to the first session on positive parenting. Today we will be discussing child development and the role parents play in the growth of a child. Today's session is influenced by Shaykh al-Islam's books बच्चों की परवरिश और वालिदैन का किरदार and बच्चों की तालीम और तरबियत, but will also include research from other sources too. I will also cover different parenting styles as well as talk a little about the popular Montessori method of raising children. Every child is born upon its nature. Hazrat Abu Huraira radiallahu anha reported that Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "No child is born but upon Fitra." He then said, recite, "The nature made by Allah in which He created man, there is no altering of Allah's nature. That is the right religion." The Prophet ﷺ said, "When the son of Adam dies, all his actions have ceased except three: a continuing charity, beneficial knowledge, and a righteous child who prays for their parent. And in this way, raising a righteous child becomes a long-term investment for the parents." So let's look at what has changed in our lives today compared to those in the past. Today we live fast-paced lives that are constantly filled with consumerism and social change. There is pressure to buy more stuff. Competition between parents is rife. Social alienation, less time being spent at home, less human interaction, and more time being spent in virtual worlds has become commonplace. And this has led to things disappearing from our life. Gentle touch and games, story time, being present with your mind and soul and not just physically in the room, playing real hands-on games, human conversations with real people, enjoying simple toys that don't cost too much money, and having less parent direction. So what is parenting? Well, parenting is the process of caring for children and helping them grow and learn. It involves a variety of different skills. Parents are responsible for supporting the physical, emotional, social, and intellectual development of a child from infancy into adulthood. It refers to the aspects of raising a child aside from the biological relationship, and the general pattern of behaviors that a parent uses to raise his or her children. There are different types of parents in the world. There are biological parents, of course, and these are the people who bring the child into this world. Step parents are parents when someone marries who has children or both spouses have children from previous relationships. There's adoption, and this is the legal process whereby a child that is not the biological child of a person is brought into a family and is now considered by law to be part of that family. Foster parents are people who assume temporal legal responsibility for a child that has been removed from their own home. Guardians are people that are appointed by the court to care for a child, usually until the child becomes of age. And then there are caregivers. Caregivers are used to refer to someone who cares for a child, whether long-term or short-term. There are many changes that come about when a person assumes the role of a parent. One of the biggest changes is being responsible for another human being. A baby is totally dependent on you for all their needs. Raising a child is a lifelong commitment. Another big adjustment is the day-to-day living. It requires an enormous amount of time to care for a baby. Your schedule will change because you will be up at all hours caring and feeding a newborn. Lifestyle changes occur when a parent quits working outside the home to care for their new baby. You are not able to come and go as you once did. No more running to the movies or to a party because you have a baby to care for and nurture. There's also emotional adjustments to consider. These are sometimes overwhelming. You have anxiety about how to care for the baby. You have fear of not being a good parent. Jealousy over the attention of the baby is getting to you. Sometimes depression and frustration from being home all day. These are all emotional adjustments and feelings that can develop once you assume the role of a parent. Changes in relationships occur with a baby too. A couple's relationship changes because now they have to share their love and attention with a new family member. Sometimes this can lead to anger and frustration and end up being taken out on their spouse. Extended family now have a new role as well. Grandparents, aunts, uncles, all relationships have now developed. These roles may take some adjustment too. Grandparents tend to try and give lots of advice that may not be wanted by some new parents. There are also some common errors that can occur. Parents can assume a static behaviour. Roles in the family are not defined. Future targets for the family and for the child are vague and not set from early on. Everyone is running after instant gratification, and there is no execution plan of how to move forward. Parents are to children what gardeners are to flowers. The flower has to blossom one day to beautify the garden, but before it can do so, it needs a gentle touch of love and care. You as a parent have been given an honourable position to train your children, so train them to think right, not to think the way you want. Your esteemed position allows only you to bring your children closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and straighten their morals, so not to make them slaves of today's society and culture. Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "When night falls, keep your children close to you, for the devil spreads out at that time. But when an hour of the night elapses, you can let them free. Close the doors and mention the name of Allah, for shaitan does not open a closed door." Parents enjoy a very respectable position in their children's life. So as children grow, their needs change and parents need to be able to adapt to these changes. They should try to gain proximity to their children and to know their children's desires and habits, and to try to understand what it feels like to be a child. Babies need positive attention and guidance to grow healthy and happy. In your baby's first years, you may have many questions about guidance and discipline. You may be faced with hundreds of parenting decisions in the early years about sleeping, nourishing, and caring for your baby. The experiences your child has in these very first years will certainly play a role in shaping the adult they will become. Early childhood is an important milestone in terms of child rearing, in which the surrounding environment, such as the home, parents, family, and relatives, have a profound effect on the child. So parents should adopt a good strategy to help with the upbringing of their children. For example, parents should use good language and avoid unnecessary speech in front of their children. And so in this way, parents are considered the first teachers and role models for their children. More than anything else, your relationship and presence impacts the way your child feels, learns, and grows. The early years of a child's life are very important for later health and development. The brain grows fast, starting before birth and continuing into early childhood. The first 8 years can build a foundation for future learning, health, and life success. How will a brain develop depends on many factors in addition to genes, such as proper nutrition starting in pregnancy, exposure to toxins or infections, and the child's experiences with other people and the world. Nurturing and responsive care for the child's body and mind is the key to supporting healthy brain development. Positive or negative experiences can add up to shape a child's development and can have long life effects. To nurture their child's body and mind, parents need to support and provide the right resources, the right care for children, starting before birth and continuing through childhood. This ensures that the child's brain grows well and reaches its full potential. As children grow, their habits change, such as by the time a child is 3 years old, he will have developed a strong personality and will have established a special relationship with his caregiver. His familiarity with various objects and his knowledge will have increased. At this age, the child learns that he can express his will and desires, and so can sometimes even be stubborn. The child is learning every day, and he begins to draw, build, and explore how things work according to his understanding. The child's confidence grows with daily activities. He is able to climb stairs, play, run, ride a tricycle. He learns to use his right and left hand, and handedness begins to take root. So at this age, a left-handed child may be persuaded to change hands with a loving and tender approach. Many good and bad habits develop in children from early on. So it is really important that the environment around the child is morally righteous. If a child associates with people of belief, with good and virtuous character, then this will develop pure qualities in the child, which will have a physical and psychological effect on the personality of the child. It is easily observable that when a child sees his elders tell the truth, praying, avoiding evil, then pure thoughts come to his mind, so good habits and good manners develop. On the other hand, if the child is surrounded by people with bad thoughts, actions, and habits, then the moral decline of the environment affects the child and bad habits begin to flourish, which not only affect his heart and mind, but also lead him to suffer from spiritual diseases. As we know, parents, elders, and siblings are all role models for children. Purity of character in a child can be created only when these people keep an eye on their words, actions, and provide a moral and clean environment for the child. Different parents employ different parenting styles. The techniques parents choose depend on culture, their own upbringing, their own experiences, their lifestyle, the way society at the time is viewing parenting, and the child's personality and temperament, as well as the parent's own personality and temperament. The techniques that parents use to relate to their children are characterized by degrees of parental control and parental warmth. Parental control involves the degree to which parents are restrictive in their use of parenting techniques, and parental warmth involves the degree to which they are loving, affectionate, and approving in their use of these techniques. One style of parenting is called authoritarian. Authoritarian parents demonstrate high parental control and low parental warmth when parenting. Parents who practice authoritarian style of parenting have a strict set of rules and expectations and require rigid obedience. So if rules are not followed, punishment is most often used to ensure obedience. There is usually no explanation of punishment except that the child is in trouble and should listen accordingly. Children of authoritarian parents tend to be unhappy. They develop an anxious personality and have low self-confidence. They lack initiative and become dependent on others. They lack social skills and can be coercive in dealing with others. Another style of parenting is called permissive. Permissive parents demonstrate high parental warmth and low parental control when parenting. This is the opposite to the authoritarian style of parenting just mentioned. In these family settings, children are free. A child's freedom and their autonomy are valued above all else, and parents tend to rely mostly on reasoning and explanation. There tends to be little, if any, punishment or rules in this style of parenting, and children are said to be free from external constraints. Children of permissive parents tend to be selfish, unmotivated, and dependent on others. They can be demanding of attention, disobedient, and impulsive. The third style of parenting is uninvolved or indifferent. These kinds of parents demonstrate low parental control and low warmth. An uninvolved parenting style is when parents are often emotionally absent and sometimes even physically absent. They are not responsive to a child's needs and do not demand anything of them in their behavioral expectations. They do provide everything the child needs for survival, but have little to no engagement with the child. Children of uninvolved parents tend to be disobedient, demanding, have low self-control and tolerance, and can lack long-term goals. The fourth style is authoritative. Authoritative parents demonstrate appropriate levels of both parental control and warmth. They are democratic in their behavior and have a balanced view. They show high love and high limits and rely on positive reinforcement, and use of punishment is infrequent. These kinds of parents are more aware of a child's feelings and capabilities and support the development of a child's autonomy within reasonable limits. Research shows that this style is the most beneficial when parenting children, as children of authoritative parents tend to be happy, self-confident, curious, independent, and likable people. They are respectful of others and are often successful in school. When it comes to authoritative parenting styles for a baby or toddler, there are some core skills and principles involved. First of all, talk. Talk to your baby. It is soothing for the baby to hear your voice. Most parents use childlike speak when they talk to their children. However, this results in children not learning correct vocabulary and hinders the child's understanding of language and word construction. As a result, this affects the child's communication style, and therefore parents should teach and speak to their children in proper pronunciation from an early age. Answer. When your baby makes some sound, answer him by repeating and adding words. This will help him learn to use language. Read to your baby. This helps her develop an understanding of language and sounds. Play. Play Quran and Naat. This helps your baby develop a love for Quran and Deen. Praise your baby and give them lots of love and attention. Spend time cuddling and holding your baby. This helps your baby feel cared for and secure. Positive parents promote positive relationships. They spend brief quality time talking to children and show affection. They encourage desirable behavior and give praise and positive attention. They teach their children new skills and they model good behavior. They manage misbehavior by setting ground rules and lead the child in directing discussions. They give clear and calm instructions and set out logical consequences. Parenting styles have a definite impact on children. The authoritative style of parenting fosters open communication and problem solving between parents and their children. In contrast to this, the authoritarian style of parenting may produce fearful and dependent children. Permissive parenting may result in rebellious children, and indifferent parenting may result in hostile children. In two-parent families in which each parent has a different parenting style, one parent's style often positively counterbalances the other's parenting style. For instance, if a mother has a permissive style of parenting, this may counterbalance the father's authoritarian parenting style. Next, I want to address some of the consequences of the decisions and actions parents take and how this can affect their children. So let's address what effect do parents' professional engagements have on their children's personalities. In view of the rising cost of living and in order to provide a good standard of living for their children, often both parents need to work in this day and age. Where both parents are working and struggling to earn a living, Often children are left in the care of others. This can have a negative effect on a child's personality. The lack of attention can lead to a negative behaviour. They can suffer from physical and mental health problems. They can develop fears, depression, insecurity, and can lack self-confidence. They can also spend a lot of time watching TV or playing games and engaging in various leisurely activities, which can lead to a lack of training in practical life skills. Such children can feel deprived of parental love and adequate training. Fighting between parents, quarrels, and arguments are one of the biggest obstacles in the way of providing peace and contentment in the life of children. This can have a number of negative effects on children. It leads to stress and affects children's mental and physical development. It reduces their ability to express themselves. Because they have not been given a conducive environment to grow, their intellectual development slows down. Children who are raised in an atmosphere of constant conflict between parents suffer from depression and an inferiority complex. Children need the support of their parents to stay calm, but when they find themselves uncomfortable and stressed due to their parents fighting, they lose their self-confidence and start looking for new ways of contentment. As a result, the child ends up distancing themselves from their parents. In a constantly stressed home environment, children struggle to develop good manners, and over time it becomes impossible for them to possess a dignified personality as they increasingly mimic parents' argumentative behaviour. Therefore, parents should be mindful of their relationship with one another and the impact this is having on their child's development. So what impact can strict parenting have? Well, a mother's over-eagerness to push her child to perform better can be both positive and negative. If the mother is occasionally a little strict, this can have a positive effect. However, if she is overly pushy and is constantly comparing her child to others, then this can have a negative effect on the child. Remember, every child is different and has differing capabilities when it comes to IQ, mental and creative ability. Every child is emotionally, mentally, and naturally different from other children. They are a unique individual, so every child needs to be dealt with separately. Some mothers become overly obsessed with their child's grades, and this puts a strain on the mother-child relationship. There can be comparisons with other children's performances, and the mother's competitiveness has a negative effect on the child's personality. This is because attaining a first position in class becomes more a source of pride for the mother than the child itself. Instead of comparing the child to others, the mother should lovingly work with the child to help him or her improve on their academic abilities. So let's look more in depth at parents and education. One system of education is the Montessori Method. The Montessori philosophy was pioneered by Dr. Maria Montessori in the early 1900s. The Montessori Method emphasizes independence, communication, positive discipline, respect for children, and allowing children to work at their own pace. As soon as you enter a classroom, you know that something different is afoot. Montessori classrooms are immediately recognizable. You will see children working independently and in groups, often with specifically designed learning materials, deeply engaged in their work and respectful of themselves and their surroundings. The Montessori method fosters rigorous, self-motivated growth for children and adolescents in all areas of their development: cognitive, emotional, social, and physical. The Montessori method is used for developing well-rounded children that excel spiritually, academically, and socially. It has been proven by many measures to produce better results in developing successful citizens. Here are some of the salient differences between traditional and Montessori education. In the traditional setting, education is teacher-directed. In the Montessori method, education is student-driven. In traditional classrooms, you have single age groups, and topics are often fragmented and unrelated. So, maths has no relation to science, which has no relation to English, and so on. But in a Montessori education system that mimics more a real-life context with multi-age groups, learning with and from each other, with a holistic view of the universe and humanity. And so subjects are not fragmented as in the traditional way, but are interlinked and intertwined. In the traditional education system, a child has a set amount of time, often one term, one annual year, to learn a certain subject. But in the Montessori education system, learning and progress is dependent on the child and depends on the child's ability and level to be able to learn. In the traditional education system, all children are taught at the same level, whether they have the ability to understand that level or not. But in the education of children in a Montessori environment, every child works and learns at his or her own pace. The Montessori method is a system of education that seeks to nurture and develop the child's natural interest and activity to unlock their potential. It is a child-centered approach to education which has been implemented internationally for more than a century and has been identified as one of the most successful, tried and tested, holistic teaching methods used today. Children are taught at their own pace and supported to actualize their potential through attentive observation by a skilled teacher and the use of a carefully prepared environment. A proficient Montessori teacher understands and responds to the individual developmental needs of these children in order to engage them fully in their learning. High levels of engagement allow the children to attain the deepest level of concentration and eventually become independent, lifelong learners. This comprehensive approach not only promotes academic excellence, but also takes a holistic approach to developing the whole child, spiritually, emotionally, physically, and socially. The Montessori method also supports the development of patience, self-control, independence, critical and lateral thinking, self-motivation, integrity, and most importantly, responsibility for themselves and for all living things. There are many examples which demonstrate how this is achieved. One subtle example is the presence of mixed age groups in each class, which naturally draws out the qualities of respect, mentoring, leadership, compassion, and patience. Montessori education is student-led and self-paced, but guided, assessed and enriched by knowledgeable and caring teachers, the leadership of their peers, and a nurturing environment. Within the community of a multi-age classroom designed to create natural opportunities for independence, citizenship, and accountability, children embrace multisensory learning and passionate inquiry. Individual students follow their own curiosity at their own pace, taking the time they need to fully understand each concept and meet individualized learning goals. Given the freedom and support to question, probe deeply, and make connections, Montessori students grow up to be confident, enthusiastic, and self-directed learners and citizens, accountable to both themselves and their community. They think critically, work collaboratively, and act boldly with integrity. In Montessori, grace and courtesy play a big part of the curriculum. Often, in classrooms from toddlerhood, children will sit at a table to eat, with tablecloths, cloth napkins, utensils, and table manners are expected. There is a dedication among Montessori practitioners and parents alike to approach grace and courtesy as a subject matter by itself that needs time and effort and constant modelling. This is an important distinction in the Montessori method versus that of traditional education, where courtesy and grace are sometimes regarded as built-in practices that the child has acquired elsewhere, and not necessarily issues that the school must prepare for or focus on separately, as they would do with subjects like maths or geography. The purpose of dedicating time and effort towards courtesy in Montessori thought is not to have an obedient or perfectly behaved child. The purpose is to empower children with skills and words and to give them the gift of being able to appropriately handle social situations, allowing them to be respectful of themselves, family and friends, and to all of those around them. The emphasis on good conduct is not to be taken lightly. In Imam Hussein radiallahu anhu's treatise on rights, he describes the rights of the child and addresses parents by saying, "You are responsible for what has been entrusted to you, such as educating him in good conduct, husn al-adab, pointing him in the direction of his Lord, and helping him to obey him." The idea here is that there is a recurring theme on how Montessori education echoes the Islamic parenting principles. I could not help but wonder how our understanding of concepts and principle changes when we see how someone other than ourselves has applied it or defined it. When I saw for myself and read how this conduct is applied in Montessori method, I began to see the true value of prioritizing courtesy, adab, and it has inspired me to approach it more as a principle that needs research, preparation, and a lot of patience, instead of something that will happen on its own. Dr. Montessori constantly stressed the importance of children using their hands as a tool for acquiring knowledge. For example, when teaching children to learn the alphabet, children should touch letters that are made of sandpaper so that the muscles in the fingers remember the movement of the finger, and hence letter recognition and writing become easier for the child because their minds will do what their hands have practiced and not the other way round. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ once said, "Sand is the spring of children." The metaphoric translation of this is that let your children play with sand. Research today tells us that playing with sand enhances children's fine motor skills and that children learn the most through play. If you have ever gone to the beach with children, then I am sure you have seen how mesmerized and entertained children are while playing with sand, and we know now that what they are acquiring from this process is much more than random play. Sand promotes hand-eye coordination skills and fosters creative and imaginative play. Today there is a whole industry of sand products like kinetic sand promoted to parents and children so that children can enjoy playing with this at home. The key now is to link all of these observations together. If we look at the Prophet ﷺ's saying, without the research about the importance of sand and without looking at Montessori's approach, then the saying might seem very simple with little implications. But put it in the context of play therapy, teaching strategies, imaginative play, and you see a profound statement. It acts as a guide for parents on how children learn. And then put it in the context of Montessori, and you will see that it does not differ at all in stressing that children learn best through their own experiences. And if you think about it, it can easily be translated to what the hand does, the mind remembers. The Montessori philosophy echoes Islam's focus on learning through reality by leading the child to understand his or her place in the cosmos. It also resonates with Islam's focus on developing the innate human inclination to virtue and intellect. So reconciling them does not require force-fitting either one to the other as they are mutually compatible, but it does require thinking deeply about how Montessori principles and methods correlate with teachings in Islam and then weaving them together into one harmonious whole. We should be able to see that knowledge of this world and religion are compatible and intertwined, and therefore we should make no artificial distinction between secular and sacred knowledge. As parents, we should develop a belief-guided approach. When we teach maths, science, language, and other subjects, we should be teaching children about Allah's creation. Children should grow not to see religion and Allah as a separate part of their lives, but as a way of looking at the world that permeates everything in the universe. Fitra, which is an Arabic term, means the innate and beautiful essence of the human being that seeks virtue and is in harmony with the natural and spiritual world. In the Islamic worldview, each baby is born on the pure Fitra. Further Islamic teachings are meant to be compatible with the Fitra and are designed to cultivate it to a character of excellence. To match human nature, Islam provides a middle way, both balanced and moderate. As parents attempting to foster the Fitra, we should not impose an artificial order to the child's life, but unlock their innate virtue, since within them are already the seeds of integrity and intellect. A gardener does not attempt to force a seed to change into a shape of a tree, but rather provides a fertile environment and lets it grow. Similarly, the child needs to be provided with resources, inspiration, guidance, and companionship to self-actualize. The Montessori method has proven to produce great results by tapping into this inner potential and emphasizes self-direction and creativity. As the focus is on development of children as a whole, it makes sense that families have taken the Montessori philosophy out of the classroom and adapted it to their home environment. There is this quote by Dr. Montessori: "Never help a child with a task at which he feels he can succeed." And essentially, this quote gets to the heart of the Montessori ideals. With Montessori parenting, children are allowed to practice these skills and develop them at their own pace, in their own time, uninterrupted. Parents don't interfere with children's natural desire to learn. Instead, children are encouraged to complete tasks on their own, even if it takes a little longer. That doesn't mean that parents don't teach their children. Just like in Montessori classrooms where teachers are called guides, a Montessori parent becomes the guide, fostering their child's natural abilities, leading by example, and instilling a sense of self. Did you know that your 1 to 2-year-old can put on their own shoes if given the required time and space? But how often do we give them that required time and space? As parents, our instincts tell us to put their shoes on for them, not help them, not guide them, but actually put them on with our own hands. We're in a rush, and this way we don't end up wasting any time. That said, we rob our child of the opportunity to learn things on their own at their pace and feel more independent. Montessori at home is all about respecting the potential children to develop their own instinct and tendencies and act on them while at home. This eventually helps them become confident in themselves while also helping them understand the way cause and effect works. Now let's look at some of the strategies for implementing good parenting. Respecting your child. This is one of the first rules of parenting. The simple idea here is that the child should be respected and should feel respected. In this way, you are modeling these manners to your child and he will learn to reciprocate. Children are people with their own thoughts. They are inherently capable beings. They should not be ignored simply because they are children. They have ownership over their bodies, and it is our job to guide them on how to look after themselves and how to interact with others. You can begin by listening to the views and opinions of your child. That doesn't mean saying yes to everything or giving in to their demands. It does mean acknowledging them when they are speaking to you and acknowledging their wants and needs, even if that means they can't or shouldn't be accommodated. Another way of showing respect to your little one is by not talking down to them or babying them by using simpler, cuter, or even loosely pronounced words. You need to give them credit for knowing their vocabulary, and you should use complex words and sentences. This will help enhance their linguistic skills and will enable them to communicate more efficiently. Respecting your child also means apologizing to them when you're wrong or when you have been unable to stay true to your word. Not only does it demonstrate respect, but it models the behavior you want to see. Another way is by not forcing physical affection. Empower children to choose if they want to hug or kiss you or anyone else, and stop tickling or hugging and touching them when they tell you to. It's important that a child is allowed to explore the world around them on their own. To do so, you should give them plenty of space so that their actions and movements are unrestricted as possible in your home. Place toys, books, and related materials on low shelves so children can access them on their own. Rather than always being involved in their playtime, give them freedom to play on their own. It's okay to say you can't play at the moment. When you do play with them, allow them to lead and avoid directing them. While they are playing alone, you'll of course need to keep an eye on them, since most children don't respect boundaries at all times. And if neglected, it can go wrong very quickly, either physically or emotionally, and sometimes it can be both. It's important to give them a clear idea of their boundaries. This will ensure the child will himself understand the importance of self-control. We should be able to adapt our home to allow our children to imitate our actions. For example, if your little one wants to fill their own glass of water and drink it, let them. This also means providing them access to cups and water so that they can do so without your assistance. Not only will this help in the development of cognitive skills, but will also instill a sense of confidence in them, which can only come if you truly let them do these small chores by themselves. Be warned though, their attempts may be messy, and this is completely alright. With a little patience, you can guide them to be better with each passing day, and it is an opportunity to teach them to clean up the messes they make. Since you are giving them freedom to explore the world around them and exercise their own choices to do their own chores, they are bound to make some mistakes on the way. As tempting as it can be to feel that you have to stop this from happening, let them happen. When they do occur, clean up together and ask your child how they think the mistake can be avoided next time. This will allow them to understand cause and effect between various actions and prepare them to not make the same mistake again. It will also facilitate better decision making as well as restraint from a very young age. Regardless of the numbers of tips and tricks that I can present, there is one thing to remember, and that is that this way of raising a child is about helping and guiding the child to grow on the original Fitra with which he or she were born. The more you observe your child, the better idea you will have of their likes, dislikes, and inclinations, and the earlier you will be able to spot any deviations from their Fitra due to external influences taking hold. If your toddler is showing interest in cars but not in flowers, then you can tailor their learning to transport, as the child will learn most when he is interested in the subject matter. You can keep adapting your home environment and your parenting styles based on the needs and preferences of your children. This doesn't mean you shouldn't encourage trying new things, and certainly preferences will change over time, but observe your child and don't force activities or actions on them. To make sure the Montessori approach is as effective as it can be, you can try to involve the child's grandparents, uncles, aunts in activities you undertake. Try explaining your approach to them. so that when they interact with your child, they do so in a similar way. This will create a much more conducive environment for the child when relatives are visiting or your child is in their home. If there's an opportunity, then consider a Montessori school for your child. Montessori schools are not only for pre-primary education, but here in the UK, we have schools that employ the Montessori approach from nursery to year 11. Of course, if you do enroll your child, make sure to let the teacher know about the progress you've made at home. Share your observations to date. By working with the teacher, you can build a good team that is focused on the development of your child. Remember, you can use these strategies even if your child goes to a traditional school. You can also implement these strategies just in your home environment, and since the home has the biggest impact on a child, you will see your child progress. Make sure that you are in contact with your child's teacher and take part in your child's schooling. This means more than just attending your child's school plays and assemblies. In fact, as a parent, you should always be aware of what your child is being taught in the curriculum at any given time, and also be aware of what the teacher's assessments and observations of your children are throughout the school year. This is only achievable if you, as the parent, are proactive and building a strong relationship with the adults that are imparting education and knowledge to your child. When parents practice Montessori at home, they are empowering their children to have some autonomy over their lives. Montessori parenting can help children explore and learn as they grow, develop independence, and can also help to minimize behavioral problems if implemented correctly. During the school term, a lot of education is taken care of by teachers. But what about training and education in holidays? There should be a coherent schedule for holiday training where individual improvement of the home environment and character building for the children are focuses. Do you have a think about the activities you want to do as a family and what activities you want the children to be involved with, as well as setting time aside daily for homework so that it gets done little and often, so as not to put too much pressure on children towards the end of the holiday period. Activities like Fajr, lunch, dhikr, Quran, and story time can all be done as a family. Then there are Islamic study classes that are run during holiday periods only, and these can be done by enrolling the children into these programs, and also charity work that children can get involved with. Finally, let's move towards some summary and concluding remarks for this session today. From today's session, we have discovered that there are some characteristics which help us become better parents. Parents should be mindful and have a vision for their child. We have seen that an authoritative parenting style fosters the best support for the child's growth and development, and a Montessori method, which is a style of authoritative parenting, is one effective way to parent. As parents, we should strive to understand our child's temperament and be involved in our child's life. Parents should work with their child and not against them. We should also be mindful of how we co-parent and what impact our spousal relationship has on the child. Parents should be consistent in their dealings with the child and avoid harsh disciplinary measures. They should take time to explain decisions to the child and model good behaviour. Remember to put in the best effort and give them the best in education and the best in discipline. Aspire and strive to give the best rather than having your aspirations fulfilled through them. Be gentle with them, yet caring. Use your controlled temper to discipline them, to teach Islam, to protect them from harm, and to make them righteous and good Muslims. Remember to correct your own mistakes as well. Though we as parents are chosen by Allah to teach our children, there are times when we have to learn ourselves, even if it is from our own children. Some things are not taught, but are inspired, and most things are learnt through inspiration. So try to practice what you preach, even if your children are not watching you. Remember the aim, remember the ultimate goal. Remember that this life is but a transient stage, and our hereafter is our permanent abode. The best gift a parent can give to their children is a beautiful mind that thinks and acts the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants them to. I hope that today's session has been beneficial, and that if you have gained anything from it from what I have said today, then know that it is from the guidance of my Shaykh and the blessings of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And if I have said anything that is incorrect, then I seek forgiveness from you and forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I thank you for joining me today and listening. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.